6 years ago, I disappeared. Well, not physically. I was still living at my home, still working and talking to people, and I was still doing all the normal things. I actually disappeared from the version of myself everybody knew. Hi, I'm Poonam. I just turned 27 last month, and 6 years ago, I deleted all my social media accounts, changed my phone number, disappeared from people's eyes, and went on a journey of finding out who I was when nobody was watching me. And for the last 6 years, I have been trying to answer the same exact question. Let me give you some context. I don't know if you have ever felt this, but there was a point in my life when I realized that almost everything that I was doing was filtered through other people's expectations. And like nobody really forced me to do anything, and the people in my life were not necessarily terrible people. It's just that I had become very good at being what other people's wanted me to be. Growing up, I was the good student. I was very good academically. I was the all rounder. I did well in school, and people had high expectations of me. And to be very honest, I had high expectations of me. I genuinely believe the script they sell us. You know, the one they talk about that you need to study hard, get good grades, go into a good college, get a good job, become successful, and ultimately become happy. That was the plan. And for the longest time, I didn't really stop and question because it was actually working for me. Well, at least from the outside. But when I left my home for college, I started experiencing life beyond school. And actually, something strange started happening. I was doing all the things that I was supposed to do, but I wasn't really feeling what I thought I would feel. I kept chasing the next thing, the next achievement, the next milestone, and another version of success. But every time I got there, it surprisingly felt empty. Like it was so underwhelming. It's like you spend years of your life climbing a ladder, and then you realize that you're not even sure if you want to be on the wall at the first place. And I was struggling with these feelings all throughout my college years. And then COVID happened, the pandemic. And around that time, I started pulling away from social media. At first, I didn't really understand why I was doing it. I thought it's just a social media detox. I thought it is going to be temporary, and I just told myself that I needed some privacy. But looking back, I think it was much deeper than that. I think I realized that I was constantly performing. I would shapeshift myself depending on the people who were watching me, and I would become a slightly different version of myself for different people around me. And because I cared so much about what everyone thought, I never stopped to ask what I thought. So I kind of removed the audience from my life. And I didn't really have like an audience, just 400 to 500 people on my socials. I'm actually talking about the people who are in your life but are not really involved in it. The extended family, your old classmates, friends of your friends, acquaintances. So I removed the audience from my life to be able to finally hear my own voice. And that is when I started doing something I had never really done before. I started paying attention to myself. I started paying attention to my thoughts. I started journaling. And I started asking myself so many uncomfortable questions. Questions that I didn't really have an answer for. Like, what do I actually want? What do I enjoy when I'm not really being rewarded for it? And who am I without all the achievements? And during one of these journaling sessions, I remembered something that completely took me by surprise. So, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a flight attendant. I was so fascinated by flight attendants and their pretty uniforms. They just looked so beautiful to me that I wanted to be one of them. I don't even remember when I dropped that idea. Like, I don't remember when that happened. But I remember people around me kept telling me that flight attendant isn't something that you aspire to be. You need to think about being a doctor, being a lawyer, something like that, something which is better than flight attendant. And when you are a kid who's constantly praised for being smart, you quickly learn which dreams people approve of and which they don't. So I forgot about it. I forgot that dream completely. Or at least I thought I did. Because years later, while journaling, that dream resurfaced. And I had this thought, what if I actually did it? Like, what if? What if I abandon all the years of hard work, abandon my degree, and go ahead and become a flight attendant? Even if it is not forever, what if I just do it for 1 year, like as an experiment? And I remember people telling me that it was a mistake. Not my family though. My family was very supportive. My family and my best friend, they were very supportive. But there were people in my life who told me that I was wasting my time, that I am at an age where I should be working upon building my future, and that other people will move ahead in life and I will stay behind doing some stupid experimentations with my life. And maybe they were right, maybe not. I don't really know. But I can tell you one thing, that for the first time in my life, I wasn't really making decisions based on whether it will look good on paper. I was making a decision that I was curious about. And honestly speaking, I was really very excited. It actually felt like an adventure. But what I didn't know at the time was that becoming a flight attendant would end up teaching me far more than I ever expected. I thought I was just signing up for a job, but in reality, I was signing up for a front row seat to humanity. See, every day I work with different people, different personalities, different set of crew, so many different stories. I was interacting with hundreds of people every day, and somewhere in the middle of all those conversations and all those flights, my perspective of the world became way bigger. It really changed me as a person, I think. I became more patient, less judgmental, and I became so much more compassionate, I think. I started realizing that there isn't actually a single way of living life. There are thousands of ways that we don't even know about, and everyone is carrying a story you have no idea of. I also decided to do this job because it would help me work on some of my fears that controlled me for years. I had always been comfortable on stage, but one on one conversations were terrifying to me. Putting myself in uncomfortable situations was so scary to me, and suddenly my job required me to do all of that every single day. It actually forced me to grow. It forced me out of my comfort zone, and I loved that. I loved who I was becoming. I loved the people I met. I loved the travel. And oh my god, I loved the sunrise. There were days we used to take off very early in the morning. Like during takeoff, it used to be dark, but then you would see the sun rising when you are in the sky, and it was just so beautiful. And also, I loved seeing parts of my country I have never seen before. I loved feeling that the real world was way bigger than the world I grew up in. And maybe that is the reason why I ended up staying there for 3 years. Yes, what started as a 1 year experiment actually turned into more than 3 years. It actually became my life, if I'm being honest. But eventually, the things shifted, and I have seen people leave their jobs because they hated it. But that wasn't the case for me. I did not really hate my job. Well, I kind of started disliking it a bit towards the end because it ended up becoming very monotonous for me. I've been doing one thing for more than 3 years, so it started becoming boring to me naturally. And once again in life, I realized that just because some things are working for you, it doesn't mean that it has to last forever. I think the job had done exactly what it needed to do. It had served its purpose. The fears I wanted to face has been faced. The lesson I wanted to learn had been learned. And deep down, I knew that it was time for me to start another chapter of my life. So I left the job, and it was pretty recent. I think it's been 6 months that I left my job as a flight attendant. And to be very honest, that was a little terrifying. I think it was more terrifying than when I actually decided to take up this job and be a flight attendant, because this time I was actually 26. And according to the society, your entire life is supposed to be figured out by this age. But here's what I learned. The older I get, the less interested I am in becoming successful according to someone else's definition. And the more interested I am in becoming myself. And I think if someone from my school met me today, they would probably think that they know me. They would probably remember me as this high achieving, ambitious girl who always seemed so confident and who always had a plan. But the truth is, I don't see myself as that person anymore. Because the person I am now values totally different things. I care less about impressing people and more about understanding myself. I spend my time reading, journaling, crocheting, scrapbooking. I love taking care of my little plants and questions. Oh my god, I love asking questions. I love thinking about human behavior, about why people do what they do, about why I do what I do. And most importantly, I know myself now. Yes, maybe not perfectly, but I think I know myself enough. Enough to trust my own voice, enough to trust my own choices, and enough to stop building my life around other people's expectations. And I think that is why I am here today. Because 6 years ago, when I stepped away from an audience, it was because I didn't know who I was without all these expectations. And now I'm coming back because I think I finally do. I have had a very negative relationship with social media and I'm trying to improve that. I'm trying to create a space for me on the internet. A little space that feels like it is mine, where I can come around again without feeling the need to perform. And this channel is exactly for that. It is for people who are also questioning the script. For people who think there is more to life than following a checklist they never chose. For people who are tired of trying to become who they are supposed to be and who are ready to discover who they actually are. And to be very honest, I don't have everything figured out. I don't think that it's even the point. But I do know one thing, that the best thing I ever did was not, finding my purpose or achieving some goal of mine. I think it was to get curious enough to try to understand myself, to try and find my authenticity. And if that is a journey that you're interested in, then maybe this is the right place for you. So stick along because I am going to come up with new videos every week. See ya!